Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Brittany, and I'm an educator at the St. Louis Zoo. Now, today's webinar is presented from my apartment, so I am home, which is why you'll see my mask worn down, as I'm not sharing any space with anyone today. I'm so excited for today's program. I've actually been waiting for this program for a very long time. Now, yesterday, if you weren't aware, was World Snake Day. Hence why I've been waiting so long for this specific webinar program. Today is the day specifically snakes. So pumped, truly. So we do have a lot of different animals in the world, and scientists group them based on their features. Now, today's webinar, we are going to, you guessed it, talk about snakes and what makes them so fascinating. And in my books, one of the coolest animals to learn about. But that's just my opinion. Knowing that snakes are reptiles, I do want to go over our reptile groups very quickly. So there are 6 groupings. We have our alligators, crocodiles, lizards, turtles, tortoises, and snakes. Of course, you can add dinosaurs in here too. We're just going more with the ones that are not extinct. So today, all about snakes. Snakes have been around for over 130 million years. That's a long time. Also, there are over 2,600 species of snakes. Because I only have a short amount of time with you today, I can't quite go through all of them. I did try to get a variety of snakes to look at today in our PowerPoint, and I did put their common name next to it. So if you are curious about a particular snake, you can quickly write it down and learn more. Now, firstly, my favorite snake is an eastern copperhead. If you joined me for a reptile webinar previously, you would already have known that it hasn't changed. I'm curious to know if you have a favorite snake. Also, Kim will be pulling up a poll now, and this poll is so I can understand your comfort level with snakes right now. Are you very comfortable, just comfortable, unsure, or not comfortable at all? A little secret about me is I used to be afraid of snakes when I was younger. When I started working at the zoo, I learned more about them, and now I'm hooked. I love learning about snakes all the time. It still hasn't changed. So I'm curious to know where you guys are at right now. So go ahead and answer that poll. What's your comfort level? All right, well, thank you guys so much for sharing. I assume that many of you would be pretty comfortable with snakes for joining the webinar, but for those that are maybe not so sure, welcome. So we are going to also talk about some misunderstandings, maybe some myths with snakes in the form of a true and false. So in order to do this, you can put true or false in the chat box, or a T or F. So our first one is snakes don't have a backbone. Is that true or is that false? Real fast. If you're not sure and maybe you're nervous about answering, please don't feel unsure about doing that. Please share. We're all learning, and I'm still learning. I figured new things out about snakes when researching that I thought were true, and I found out, oh, wait, that's not. So it's okay. We're all learning together, and I want you to feel comfortable enough to share with everyone today. And we'll find out together, too. Here we go. It's false. Snakes actually do have a backbone, even though it doesn't look like it. They are so flexible. Their backbone is made of a lot of vertebra, and it goes from their skull all the way down to the tip of their tail. Now, something neat is with their rib bones. So our ribs are connected with the sternum. You can feel right in the center. Their ribs are not. So how I like to think of this is if you use your hands and your fingers are interconnected, it's hard to move your hands. They can only go so far, right? But if your fingers are open, you have more flexibility. That's how their movement can be more useful with having those open ribs, so that's more flexible. But they do indeed have a backbone. They are a vertebrate. They're also cold-blooded. Now, cold-blooded can kind of be a little complex to think about. So I try to always make a very simple graphics. So let's take this prairie king snake. Cold-blooded animals, if they're in a warmer area, the air temperature around them is warmer, their body temperature is also warm. And then alternatively, if they are underground, it's just shady, colder, then their body temperature will be lower. So it will change and fluctuate like a roller coaster depending on what's happening around them. Whereas warm-blooded animals like us, our body temperature stays the same, regardless of if it's warm or cold outside. Now we are going to talk about snakes starting from their head, ending to their tail with features today. And we have another true or false. So thinking about their heads, snakes dislocate their jaw to eat large prey. This one was really surprising to me. It's false. And I had learned the word dislocate. I'm like, but that's what I was always told. And then I figured out it's not that they dislocate their jaw. Their jaw is very flexible. Now the skull has two parts. So I'm just going to show you the top of the skull first. And it looks like, oh, it's very bright. Okay, so this is a reticulated python skull. This is a replica. So they have many, many bones all over their skull, and they're tiny bones. Now, the lower jaw here is special. Oh, it's so bright today. It's very special because this part here is not connected. Now, if you touch your chin, our lower jaw, the mandible, is connected here. We can't move it this way, right? It just goes up and down. Because this part isn't connected and they have a lot of little bones up here, they're actually able to move their mouth in neat ways, kind of like back and forth and side to side to stretch. So it's because they're more flexible. They're not actually dislocating anything. They just have a lot of ligaments, muscles, and that's so fascinating to me because, guys, I learned something new too. Back to the head of the snake. Now, there are many senses with all of our animals. And I want to know, do you know something about a snake and their senses with their skull and their head? What do you know? Using the tongue to smell. Yeah, that's strange. Can we do that? Have you ever tried? Sometimes I've asked students to stick their tongues out and wave it around in the air and see if they can taste the air. It hasn't worked yet. So they have a really specific organ called a Jacobson's organ. Now, they do have a nose, they have two nostrils, and they have some olfactory capabilities up in here. So that's just where they smell, up in here, so they can do that. But the Jacobson's organ is even more special because their tongue can collect these tiny scent particles and it pulls it back into their mouth. The organ is in the roof of their mouth and it transfers to that organ, which connects to their brain to tell them if it's food, if it's something maybe like a predator around. So that's just another way they can sense. Now, they actually don't have eyelids. I get asked this a lot. How do you know if a snake is sleeping? It's like, well, it's really tricky to tell. Because snakes never close their eyes, they don't have the capability. They have a special spectacle scale on top of their eyes that'll help protect it. Also, some snakes have another sense organ, another spot, and it's called a heat sensing pit. Now, this is common in snakes such as boas and pit vipers. And this is a timber rattlesnake here. So you can see that the pit is lower than the nostril, and especially if animals are hunting at night, they can pick up infrared detection. So they can detect warm-blooded animals like mice, and they can find them easier. Kind of neat. Now, this is a really fun one. No external ear, no problem. So our ears are external. You can see we have ear holes too. Snakes don't. They can still hear. So a lot of times you'll hear that the vibrations, they can feel vibrations on their lower jaw, but they can also detect sound waves that hit their skin in the temporal area. So that's kind of like near where that's pointing to the arrow. So it hits their skin, which then hits onto a muscle and then connects to the bone, which then goes to the brain. It's kind of a weird process. And this is a very simplified way of talking about it. It's a little more complex. But just know that snakes can actually hear. True or false? Snakes can climb trees. Ooh. It's true. Now, you'll notice I didn't put all snakes can climb trees because there are some snakes that are maybe not as adept to this lifestyle of climbing. Some are really good at going underground or really good at swimming. So they have different strategies. Now, snakes are really amazing in that they can indeed climb vertical structures, sometimes better than even humans, and we have arms and legs. So this is a black mamba and a western rat snake, and those are just a couple examples. And a lot of this has to do with their muscles, but also their scales. Their scales help protect their bodies, and they almost remind me of like what you think of like a traditional fish scale and how it covers. They are made of a protein with keratin similar to our fingernails, but different shapes. Now, snake scales can look very different, come in very different colors. Some are more rough, some are more smooth, some are small, some are very large and have ridges. But what's really nice, oh, I see someone saying belly scoots. Yeah, so the scales on their underside, on their belly, most of them have these long rectangular shaped scales. Now that's going to help a lot with gripping the ground and also with climbing the trees. So here's another western rat snake. Again, much better at climbing than what I am, and I have limbs. So their scales are really neat and really unique to reptiles. And of course we have scales on fish too, but these scales are different. A lot of people ask, are they slimy? They're actually not, but they can look very shiny and almost appear to be wet. Also with scales, we can't talk about scales without talking about shedding. Shedding is a very important part of a snake's life because scales can get damaged over time. And also as they grow, it gets a little too tight. So they need to shed that outer layer of skin. Now, what's really neat, this is a Boelen's python. You'll notice that spectacle scale over the eye is blue. This is a time when we know that snakes are shedding. Their scales get a little more dull, and that scale on the eye in particular gets very blurry. So you think about if you have sunglasses on that are like super, super greasy, maybe they have greasy fingerprints, but like super, super messed up sunglasses where you just can't see. You might detect movement or light changes, but you can't really tell what it is. So snakes are particularly sensitive during this time because, again, they want to stay safe. But the amount of shedding depends a lot on different factors like age, how damaged their scales are, and also how much they're eating. All right, guys, here's another one. True or false? All venomous snakes have eye slit pupils. False. Now, eye slits, I think about almost like when you think of a cat's eye, the pupil, like our pupil shape is round. And eye slits are like a very thin line, but they'll still dilate. Now, this is a plains garter snake and a northern cottonmouth. These are common snakes that you'll find in Missouri and also in Illinois. And while true in Missouri that are very few, we only have around 6 venomous species of snakes, and we have way over 40 snakes in Missouri alone. The ones that we do have eye slits. Now, that being said, this isn't true for all states, isn't true for all countries. And Miss Brittany always likes to recommend us keeping space from our wild animals. That way they feel safe and know that we mean them no harm. If you are getting close enough to look at a snake's eye to see its pupil shape, you are a bit too close. So those are just my wise words. So you can have a good day and our snake friends feel safe too. Talking about snakes' life cycles. So this is a type of mountain viper. You'll notice that they are on a quarter, very, very small. This is one as an adult. Snakes go through a very simple life cycle. So when you see a baby snake, you know it's going to grow into an adult snake. However, sometimes the colors might change a little bit, the patterns. But for the most part, you can tell the species. They can either hatch from eggs or they undergo live birth. Now, the live birth is different than a mammal, and it's a little bit complex to go into all the details. And I noticed that I'm running a little bit low on time because I'm having so much fun talking about snakes. So just know that there are different strategies, but a simple life cycle nonetheless. Here is a picture of a king cobra female. This is really interesting, as most snakes will either lay their eggs and leave, or have their babies are born and they'll leave. They do not take care of their young because their young are ready to go. They know everything they need to do to survive. They have all of their built-in instincts. Now, our Cobra, however, she will lay on the nest for 2 to 3 months. She'll create a nest with her eggs. She has about 20 to 30 at a time. And she will not eat, and she will just sit on her nest and protect them. Once they start to hatch, she slithers off. She's done her job. All right, we got another true or false. All snakes dig burrows and tunnels. What do you think? It's false. Now, some snakes can. That's why I put all snakes. There are very few species, but some actually have a particular head shape where they can dig a tunnel, a burrow and a tunnel. And while most snakes can kind of push their head through soft soil to get to a tunnel, most of the time they're just looking for some that are already created from rodents. But I'll be honest, guys, when I was growing up, I would see a hole and I'd be like, it's a snake hole. So again, we are always learning, and you never quite stop, even when you're a grown adult. We're still learning all the time, and that's what makes the world great. Talking about our tails, we are getting towards the end of this webinar. Thank you guys for staying with me for so long. So tails can be very different. Now, the rattlesnake is really interesting in that they use that as a defense mechanism, as a warning sign. Now, these are venomous animals, and I always like to remind people that a lot of times I get asked, are snakes aggressive? Are they going to want to bite me? Are they going to chase me? They're not going to do that. It's very, very rare that a snake is going to actively chase after you. They are not mean animals. Animals try to defend themselves and protect their young, protect their nest, their hives. All of these different factors go into it. So we want to make sure, again, that we just respect them and give them their space. And they'll understand that you mean them no harm. Now, rattlesnakes, every time they shed, remember we talked about shedding, every time they shed, they will get a new rattle segment. It was once believed that you could tell how old a rattlesnake was by counting the number of rattles. But again, you'd have to get a little too close to a rattlesnake, so Brittany does not recommend doing that. Also, it is a myth because when they're younger, they actually shed more often, so they'll get more segments. So it's not like a segment a year sort of thing. Also, if a segment gets damaged, it can break off, and that's totally normal. Now, not all snakes have rattles. Some will actually mimic and shake their tail, vibrate their tail in leaves. Others, like this spider-tail horned viper, which is such a fascinating looking snake. I learned about this one during my research phase for the webinar. They have found a way to attract their food. And that is indeed their tail. And there are certain birds that like to eat spiders. So they sit really still and move their tail. And when a bird gets close, dinner is served. All right, guys, here we go. We got another one. True or false? The anaconda is the longest snake in the world. True or false? False. The reticulated python can actually get a little bit longer. So reticulated pythons, their range is between 16 to 33 feet long, which is pretty long. And our anacondas can get to up to 30 feet. That being said, the anaconda, like green anacondas, can get up to 550 pounds, whereas our reticulated pythons only get up to about 150 pounds. So it is a very sneaky use of words. So if you say longest snake, reticulated pythons can get longer. If you say largest or heaviest snake, that's the anaconda. However, both are super big snakes and really amazing. Mike Dawson is at the Herpetarium at the St. Louis Zoo right now, and he's going to share our green anaconda, J-Lo. Mike, take it away.
So I'm here at the lower wing of the Herpetarium. I'm right in front of J-Lo here, and I'm gonna reverse my camera so you guys can get a better look at J-Lo. So hopefully you can kind of see her down in the little corner here. She's resting in the corner. So she is actually one of our green anacondas here. She's a female. Female anacondas, which is really neat, are bigger than male anacondas, and it's true for a lot of boas and pythons and different snakes. The female's a little bit larger. They typically range when they're full size, somewhere between 15 to 17 feet. Obviously, they can get a lot longer than that, and they have some good records in the wild. Brittany mentioned close to 29 to 30 feet, but the average is typically like 15 to 17. J-Lo here is around, I think it's around 17, 16 feet, somewhere in there. So she's getting pretty good size for her for the species that she is. She did come from the wild, which is neat. We were able to take care of her here at the zoo. Diet-wise, in the wild, they typically eat all kinds of neat stuff, everything that once they get full size, they can get a hold of. So small caimans, capybara, which is one of the largest rodents in the world, small mammals, turtles, and fish. Here at the zoo, they typically, she's on a diet of small pigs, but pretty neat. This is what she does a lot of the time. If you get a chance to come check her out and see in the zoo, there are a lot of times they're ambush hunters, so they're going to sit and wait, and you'll see her move. You just have to have a lot of patience. Typically, the nose is just kind of pointing out. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Let me see if you can get a little bit closer. Usually holds the nostrils just right above the water so they can breathe, because they do breathe air. But this is what J-Lo does quite a bit. She's pretty good size. Weight-wise, I'm not sure. I'd have to go confirm the weight. On an average, you're somewhere around 300 pounds. There are records in the wild that even go up to 500 pounds, but the average is somewhere in the 300, 350 range. Brittany, does anybody have any questions for me?
Is there a story behind J-Lo's name?
I don't know the full story. That's a great question. I'll have to look up how she got that name. I do not know. We can share it back out later.
Mike, do you know how old J-Lo is?
We do not know the actual age of her since she came from the wild. Being that she's mid-sized and everything, probably middle of her life span, so somewhere late teens, somewhere in there, but we don't know the full age.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike, for sharing J-Lo with us. I'll let you get back to your other zoo duties today.
Will do. Thank you so much.
All right. So snake diversity. There are, again, over 2,600 snakes, 2,600. So many, and they have many different colors, shapes, lifestyles. Some are nocturnal, some are which either more active at night, some are more active during the day, some are arboreal, staying in the trees their entire life, some are in the water more of their life. It's really fascinating. So I highly recommend checking out our snakes. And we do have many snakes located at the Herpetarium as well. So if you want to go and visit our different snakes groups at the zoo. Now I have a fun game for us. I know we're getting really close to the end, but I really want to play this game with you guys. Spot the snake. This is a snake that is common in Missouri and uses camouflage really, really well. Can you spot the snake? And I know you guys can maybe point to your screen, but I won't see it. So you can just say yes or no. Do you see the snake yet? All right, here's another view. Do you see the snake? This is using my Zoom. All right, I see everyone's like, yes, 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 see it. And surprise, it's Miss Brittany's favorite snake, the copperhead. I always really enjoy going out in nature. And it really does help if you have a great zoom on your camera. So again, you can keep your distance and keep your space with animals and still learn about them. And they feel very comfortable. You can also use binoculars to look at animals closer too from afar. Now, lastly, I see a snake, now what? First thing, if you're talking to Miss Brittany, congratulations. Every time you see a snake, I think it's a sign of like the best luck. You're gonna have the greatest day ever. It is so difficult to see snakes sometimes. They don't want to be seen. They want to be hidden. They are going about their day. Now, the best thing that we can do, as always, and I mentioned this multiple times, we want to give our wild animals respect. We don't want to pick them up or get too close to them because we are much larger than they are. We are stronger than they are, and to them, we look like a giant predator that wants to eat them. And as silly as that sounds, they don't know, and animals want to stay safe. All right, we have one poll that's gonna come up, and I'm curious to know about your comfort level with snakes now. I know that we are towards the end of our webinar, so I'll go through our questions in just a moment too. So go ahead and let me know, has your comfort level changed with snakes after this webinar? Maybe it stayed the same. Thank you guys so much. It looks like some of you that maybe weren't comfortable or still maybe a little unsure, and that's okay. You don't have to love snakes like I love snakes. I think I take it to a new level. I'm just so fascinated with animals in the world. I want to get to the Q&As before I let you guys go today. All right, Let's see. What's the moderator's favorite snake? Well, for that one, we're gonna have to have Kim jump on, or maybe she can type it in the webinar chat. Kim, what is your favorite snake? Can you go ahead and type that in for us?
Oh, I thought they meant you as the moderator, but I really like hognose snakes. I think they're super cute, and I love how dramatic they are when they feel threatened because they kind of pretend to be dead. And I think I know it's meant to be intimidating, but I think it's very cute.
That's awesome. They are so cute. Now I wish I would have put some hognose snakes pictures in there. I'll do that next one. All right, what's your favorite snake besides the copperhead? This is gonna sound really silly, and maybe you guys know this snake or not. There's a snake called a worm snake. And you guessed it, they're very small. They're like so little, and their bellies are bright pink. It's hard to find them around here. I haven't been so lucky finding them. They're very secretive, and they like to be underneath rocks and logs, so no luck yet. But if you Google worm snake, it's really cute, and they're really fun to learn about. Are all snakes poison and venomous? Oh, great bringing that up. I'm so glad you brought that up. So there's a difference between poisonous animals and venomous. Venomous animals have to either bite or sting to inject a toxin into its prey item, or maybe sometimes as a form of defense. Poisonous animals have to be eaten, or they don't actually bite. So they have to be like, there's a contact. So you can think about, oh, nice. Thank you for bringing up J-Lo. It's really cute, Mike. So with our poisonous animals, snakes are going to be either venomous or non-venomous. So there are no snakes that have like the toxins just like on their body. Think about a poison dart frog. So not all snakes are venomous. However, they all have teeth and they all have different ways to protect themselves. So keep in mind that respecting their distance is going to keep everybody safe and happy. And what types of snakes live in backyards and front yards? Oh, so many types. So many types live all around us. However, it's really hard to see them because, again, they don't want to be found. They want to go about their days and stay safe. So again, if you see a snake, you can just politely give them a little wave, and you can take some steps back if you're too close, but letting them have their space will ensure that both of you have a really good time. All right, I have gone over my allotted time limit for this webinar, but as you can guess, I really enjoy talking about snakes. Thank you all so much for joining me today and zooming in. If you want to visit the St. Louis Zoo, we are indeed open, and we welcome you guys back. We're so excited to have our guests come back and see our animals. Now keep in mind, to do that, you'll want to go online to make a free timed reservation, and make sure you bring your masks, as those are required. Have a wonderful time.